It goes without saying, perhaps, that the loss of a loved one is never easy, especially so with spouses. It's what happens, though, in the weeks and the months that follow that can either compound that grief or make it a little easier. And much of that depends on the level of financial planning you've done. So Joe Schmitz of Peak Retirement Planning joining me with some insight in this sponsored segment. Joe, good to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, few people do like to think about kind of that inevitable fact of life is that someday it's going to end, right? But it's important to plan. So how high on your priority list, when you're sitting down with a client, right, how high of a priority is that to plan for the after?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people come to us for that reason. You got to think about it. Most people we work with are 55 to 70, and so, they've still got a great life to live ahead of them, so they're not preparing for it to be tomorrow. But as we know, it can happen at any time that one spouse could predecease the other. And so typically, like I'll share a client story that we had. We had a client come to us and he said, hey, look, I'm deciding to work with your firm moving forward. He had worked with an advisor for 20 years, and he said for two reasons. He said one of the reasons is you're bringing up strategies I've never heard before. My advisor hasn't brought these up yet. He said the second thing is I like the fact that you're going to be here not only for my own retirement, because average age of an advisor is 56, and as you can tell, Robyn, I know you may be wondering, I'm not 56 quite yet.
You're not 56. I didn't card you, but I figured you were a little less than that, yeah.
But anyway, so he said, I like the fact that you guys are going to be around for my retirement, but also you're going to be around for my wife's retirement too, was extremely important to him.
Yeah.
And he said also to be there to transfer the wealth from our generation to the next. And I had to joke with him, and I had to say, hey, I hope you're okay with this, but we'll also probably be here for your grandkids' retirement. And I said, are you okay with that? And but I think that's something that we really focus on with our clients is a generational planning. And typically what we see out of two spouses is one is more into the finances than the other.
Yeah.
And so that's totally fine because they've delegated different areas in their life. But if something happens to that main decision maker, the other one's left with figuring it out on their own, and so that's why they like working with a team so that we can help them make those decisions.
And a lot of times if you've already sat down and kind of fleshed these things out, it won't be a big surprise when it comes down to it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that's a big thing, but also the fact that, we tell these people, some of them may be doing it on their own, and they can't pick the advisor if they pass away for their spouse.
Right,
and so
right.
A lot of them like coming to us early on so they can trust us and see, hey, does this work? And that's what we advise people to do if they're not working with a team or they're working with a team currently, is make sure they can vet them out so that that spouse is going to be good to go, because they may not be able to make that decision of who's going to be best for them.
One of the things that many people will face and they don't realize is the widow and widower's penalty.
Yeah.
Explain to us what that is, why you really have to think about that.
Certainly, and this is something a lot of people are worried about. It's actually my least favorite part of the tax code. And so what happens is you go from married filing jointly to single tax brackets, and that can be very significant because you can pay nearly double the amount of taxes just if you're single versus married. The other consideration has to do with Social Security, and so when one spouse passes, you lose one of the Social Securities. You get to keep the higher of the two, but you have a loss of income, you're paying more in taxes. You also may have to pay more for Medicare premiums too, because that's based on your income, and the single tiers are more. And so all of those factors playing together is going to lead to less income for the spouse. And we just did this scenario for one of our clients recently. It was a $30,000 loss of income and extra taxes that spouse was left without, which is very significant for many people in retirement.
So how can you plan for that? Like, it seems almost like, right, how do I make changes now to help me there?
Yeah, I mean, if we just live forever, that helps too.
Yeah, that also can help.
But certainly, getting ahead of it through tax planning. So like a lot of our clients, and we talk about it in the book that I wrote called I Hate Taxes, about Roth conversions is a big one. And this is something we're seeing people look to do by the end of the year, because you got to do it by December 31st. But this is where you move money from your tax deferred investments, so like the 401ks, the IRAs, and you move it to a Roth. And so someone may think, well, why do I want to pay my taxes now? Well, like we talked, pay it now at the married filing jointly versus potentially later at the single tax brackets. And, and this is good for any spouse out there typically, but we also see it a lot when there's an age gap or there's a health gap. One's healthier than the other, because it's more likely to get to those single brackets, and we want to plan ahead of it.
All right, so you mentioned the book, Joe. How do we get it in the hands of our viewers?
Yeah, if they just call us, there should be a number to text us to, is the easiest, and we'll send them out a copy of the book and also some other helpful guides and resources there. Education is something we're very excited about. We do a lot of workshops around town here in Columbus, and they can go to our website to attend one of those as well.
Okay, and it's nice too that you're saying you hate taxes, which everybody agrees with, but you're not saying you don't need to pay your fair share. You're just saying don't give too many, right?
Exactly.
Don't give too much money. money to Uncle Sam. So definitely text, call that number, and Joe and his team will be happy to help you. So thanks for being here.
Yep, thanks, Robyn.